I know I say every week I'm going to try and keep us to, not the entire hour, but I'm going to try really hard tonight because I know you guys are tired. Um, so tonight we are starting our conversation about working with school-based personnel. And so what I want to do in terms of how we're working with our school-based personnel is to identify them first of all. And I know when you look at the Jamboard, and I'll repost that in a second, I know that when we think about who our school-based personnel are, it can mean different things in different buildings. So I've tried to cast a really wide net um, into our Jamboard. But what I would really like for us to do is think about who our who makes up our staff in our schools beyond you guys, beyond the people who are coming to this. And so for some of you guys, you're gen ed teachers. So who makes it up besides gen ed teachers? For some of you guys, you're special ed teachers. So who makes it up besides your special ed teachers? And for those of you who are not school-based, really the conversation is around when you go into a school, who are you recommending that the school-based staff work with as additional supports within their school? So what I actually kind of wanted to do tonight was a gallery walk. And we haven't done it exactly like this before, but I do have that Jamboard up. And what I would like to do is put everyone into a small group of probably 3 or 4 people. And there are, okay, I know it says 18 slides, okay? I understand how my brain works. First of all, slide 1 is directions and slide 18 is Passover recipes. So ignore those 2 slides for this part of it. In between, I tried, like I said, to cover as many different things between elementary and secondary as I could. And so what I really want groups to do, and I'll go ahead and share so I'm not just speaking about it abstractly. So what I would like for groups to do is on each of these pages, when you'll have a title of a group of people or a person. And obviously they're not going to work for everybody, but with using the sticky note feature, which is, it's literally this little button here and the sticky note pops up, you can change the color. The font will change based on the size of your sticky note. And so what I want you guys to do is use this kind of color code as you go around to each of the different screens. The green notes are for what do you think this person can contribute to supporting twice exceptional students? And you can define your lens when you're coming up with these ideas, including what you and your position might bring to the table. Orange sticky notes are challenges and barriers working with this person or with this team. The blue sticky notes are just comments that aren't, they're just not contributions, they're not barriers, just thoughts and comments that you have. If you have a question, we're going to use the pink. And because it's me, we have yellow sticky notes for snarky comments because no world of mine is complete without them. I'm going to go over each of the categories real quick because if you guys think of categories that you think we should have up here, I will make additional screens. I'm not really going to structure this a whole lot. What I would like to do is do about 15 minutes of you guys doing a walkthrough where you're looking in your small group, you're going to look at each of the screens, whatever order you choose to go in. And then we're going to come back, we're going to do a little bit of a mini debrief, and then I'm going to mix up the groups and send you guys back out just so you can have a little bit of a different conversation, hopefully. And then we'll come back to the whole group and go over any questions that we feel like didn't get addressed in both of our small group go-arounds. I'd like you to try and get to 5 or 6 of the slides. So by all means, I don't think you're going to get to all 17 or 16 that we have, and that's okay. The other thing we have for this, of course, is it's recorded and you guys will have access to the Jamboard. And so you can always come back and reference it. And again, for this particular focus, I tried to think about personnel who are more often than not at the school. So like school psychologists are not on here, speech paths, folks who are very important to the school, but not there on a regular basis. And so don't feel like you got left out. You're just a topic for a different week. So real quick, we are looking at, we have an elementary reading specialist, a staff development teacher, content specialists or resource teachers, and these are specifically like your department people, not your RITSIs and not your special ed content specialists, but like other teacher leadership. Your ELD teachers, health room staff, school counselors, team leads, which I know in a lot of schools are different than content specialists, media specialists or your media services team, building services team, cafeteria team, general education teachers, special education teachers, paraprofessionals, your athletic staff. I think I spelled that wrong, but I really can't think of how to spell it. Administrators, and then, passive recipes. Is there any group of people that you guys can think of that I've glaringly left off here? Please share it so we can have it up for everyone. Or you can throw it in the chat if you'd prefer not to come off mute. Oh, like your main office staff. Anybody else that I have, again, glaringly left off of this discussion? I do have building services, yes.
I had a beer. I had a beer, Sarah. Did you say administration?
I did say administration.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm sort of beating, sort of beering, sort of listening.
I will take it. I'm going to add your parent community worker. I'm not going to add PTA unless you mean PTA as in like the teacher representative for the PTA, because we're going to do parent and community on a different night. But the parent community person who works for the school, what are they called? I should know this. She texted us earlier today. Liaison, that's right. Parent community. I can't spell liaison tonight. We're just going to go with person. If somebody else can spell liaison, by all means, please do. I have admin. And then I know that some schools have like focus teacher positions and like kind of specialty positions. So if you guys want to add like focus teacher in here as a person, I can do that as well. But I know it's going to mean different things for different schools. But I think that they are a good. Oh, apparently no, because I'm out of whatever. That's fine. We have plenty of folks. Oh, that is a great question. So somebody said, what about our AEISTs, or for elementary, they would be your GT liaison. Slightly different positions, but I'm going to put them on your you guys are determined to make me spell the word liaison tonight. Yeah, that's not right, but that's what you're getting. Please feel free to fix that for me. So for those of you who are in elementary or high school, AEIST is the Accelerated and Enriched Instruction Support Teacher, and it is a 0.4 position in middle schools. And it's somebody who is essentially charged with being the on the ground person, supporting twice exceptional English language learners in their access to instruction, and then supporting teachers also in understanding how to work with that student population. The GT liaison is an elementary position, which is a non-release position. It's essentially a voluntold position right now. It's usually a staff development teacher or an administrator, and they oversee the process of GT identification. And again, they're kind of the person, boots on the ground person to support getting information from our office to and from their parent communities. High school, yeah, you know, we'll get there. Beverly, what's up?
You said that's not an extra, like you don't get paid extra for that?
Not at this time, you do not. That is definitely something that we in our office are not fans of, but we can only make as many recommendations as we can, and the school system has to budget for it. So that's why right now it's usually something for a person who's already released from the classroom to do. Some schools it is, I mean, there are some schools where there's somebody who's really interested in doing it and they take that on. But it's not a release position on its own.
And what's the process as far as this liaison, the school-based one, just in school? How is that delineated from all the role of, say, the school psychologist?
So
whatnot?
the TP liaison, like I said, they don't get paid anything extra, but they get to go to extra meetings. They get to join the Canvas course and learn about how what we call the CIPI process, which we're going to just use interchangeably with GT identification. They get to go learn about what the CIPI process is going to look like for each school year, what the school's role in that is going to be, what central office's role is going to be. And then when we do things like collecting the teacher input for students, parent input for students, they kind of oversee all of those pieces. And they're also supposed to be the primary person answering any questions about enrichment, how enrichment is approached in the elementary school. Currently, it's like I said, it's mostly a voluntold position. Your principal will inform you if this is your position. Like I said, there are some people, they really enjoy it, and I know that they've gone to their principals and asked for it. But more often than not, it's somebody who's already mostly released from the classroom, because there is some extra work to do with it, even if it's not, it's not, like I said, a paid position. So we just have a handful of people jump on, so I'm just going to go over what we're going to do one more time. But basically, I'm going to put you guys into groups of about 3 or 4 and have you do a gallery walk on our Jamboard. And there's a Jamboard. And you guys are going to use page 1 of the Jamboard, has the directions. But in your small group, you're going to take yourselves on a gallery walk through our different positions and how they contribute to supporting or could contribute to supporting choice exceptional students in school buildings. We're going to do a 15-minute time, come back, do a short debrief, go back, spend about 10 more minutes in there, and then come back and answer any questions or do another debrief, and then we will be done for tonight. So without further ado, I am going to create 10 breakout rooms. Awesome. And open all rooms. So hopefully you guys can see the buttons, and if you can't, I will push you into your room. Because it looks like basically everyone is back. So hopefully everybody had a good experience working through here. I saw there's some slides it looks like we didn't get to. Sorry, I just was reading what Jennifer's comment was. There's no such thing as a gifted student who is not twice exceptional. That would mean that we're treating giftedness as a disability, because specifically giftedness, while it is true that gifted students have brains that work differently than the normal or general common population, they're not all disabled. And so it might be why we say that they are exceptional. And that's where we get the basis of twice exceptional or multi-exceptional is the new word that you guys are going to hear in a couple of years. So now you're ahead of the curve because you got the new language. Every so often, I know people just kind of lose their connection, but it sounds like they hang up when they don't like what I'm saying. You know, I am always for the opinion of having a meaningful conversation. And so I wouldn't ever just totally shut down a conversation, but I think unless you are a person who believes that giftedness is a disability, I don't think you can make that statement. But I have heard people try to argue that if you treat giftedness as a difference in brain function, but then the question is, well, how are they twice exceptional? Because if they're only gifted, that still is a difference in brain function, but it's only one difference in brain function. And there's things that we ascribe to gifted people, like executive functioning and some of the social pieces. But while they might be somewhat impacted, they're not disabling. So for example, a gifted kid can be super awkward to talk to unless you put them with other peers or adults or people who have a similar, and then they do understand the social cues and they do understand how all those things go. Their social cue struggle is they're thinking about things in such an abstract way and so much faster than some of the people around them that they don't have time for social cues because they can't deal with the pace that other people think at. Or if it's a topic of zero interest to them, they're going to appear very rude because they just don't care. There's a difference between that versus a more of a disabled or disabling condition where you can't transfer social skills in any setting. You're impacted across multiple settings. So yeah, and that's a really good point. Like the difference between the asynchronous development versus being twice exceptional. So yeah, a student, if you are a student or a person who is super high developed in your verbal area, but you're average in another area, that may come across, you know, that could come across as a disability, or it's just a difference in how you're developing, but it's not disabling. So like I said, I think it's an awesome conversation to have. And you know, those of you who know me know I love to have really kind of thought-provoking and discussions where we can toss these ideas around. But based on the research that we have in front of us right now, I feel like you can only make that distinction if you're treating giftedness itself as a disability. So, but you know, there's thousands and thousands and millions of pages of research, so feel free to disagree as much as anyone wants. So I was flipping through your pages and I think you guys have some great things on here. I wanted to call out a couple that caught my eye. One was on the reading specialist page. Somebody commented that reading specialists don't meet with students. So as a part of their job description, reading specialists are supposed to meet with students, and they are supposed to meet with student groups that have specific different needs because they are specialists in reading. I know this doesn't happen at every school, but that is part of the job description for them. And so for all of you who might be struggling with a reading specialist who does not meet with students, I would say I have not equal number, but a significant number of reading specialists who primarily meet with our twice exceptional students or coach our general education teachers in how to support twice exceptional students in their classroom in terms of reading. It is a very specialized or nuanced support that they provide. But as I look at it, that is part of what they are doing, and their position is using their specialization in reading to meet the needs of all of our special populations, of which gifted could be considered one. I like the snark. It's really interesting with the media specialists, and I threw it out there because in real life, my office is right across or with, no ma'am, my office is right across or with the media services folks. And so I have a very direct line to the supervisor of media. And what media specialists can do for gifted and twice exceptional kids is a frequent topic of conversation. And so just kind of based on that general knowledge that I have in those discussions, there is an expectation from the media people that the media specialists do lessons, do instruction, and meet with all grade levels and provide support to different grade levels, which should include working with special education or with gifted education. So I would kind of take that as an opportunity. If it's something that's a struggle, like as always, reach out to your administrator. If there's something directly that we can support with, I'm happy to do so. But the media specialists are supposed to be in a teaching position, and that is the expectation of their supervisor. And that is something I know that they do direct instruction on because I listen to them to give that instruction. So I actually have a school this year who had, they're having some real struggles with a twice exceptional student and that ability to enrich the student. Specifically, they're one of our K2 primary schools. And when you have a kid who reads on 5th grade level and your school only goes up to 2nd grade, it can be a struggle to have the materials available to you. And so one of those strategies they were using is the media specialist was teaching the student 2 days a week for an hour. So it wasn't a long period of time, but using that expertise to go into deeper research skills and different strategies on finding good information online. And they have that talent in there, but sometimes they might need support or suggestions on how to navigate what they can do to support. So I don't see a whole lot of other questions. We have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you guys as a whole, would you prefer to go back into small groups with a different group of people and add more to the Jamboards? Because I saw some of the later slides didn't get touched upon at all. Do we want to just answer any other questions or things that came out that in your small group that you want to share with a large group? I want to make your time meaningful for you. Beverly.
On each one of the roles, is there anything that we missed as far as gauging that person's role? And if we did, could you give us a example of how they can support the students?
So one example that I'm going to throw out there is building services team. And I put them on there specifically because I have a particular building services team that I see do amazing things with students. And it was things that wouldn't have generally occurred to me, except that their team lead took the initiative to do this. And so at this particular elementary school, the building services manager is very big on his team is a part of the school and the school functions to support children. So his team's primary job is to support children. And whether that is keeping their spaces clean and accessible or being available to a child who's crying in the hallway, that is part of what his expectations are. And so it is not unusual for to see a building services worker sitting next to a student and just talking to them in the hallway if they're having a rough day. The building services manager himself has an office that is completely, I don't want to say sensory based, but he has all sorts of sensory tools within the office where students, it's really near the cafeteria. And so when students are overwhelmed, they can go with an adult into that space, or he makes himself available during lunchtime as much as he can, midday, especially when we have, there's always that grade level that needs a little bit extra help each year. So if that grade is at lunch, he tries to make himself more available. And just really work to actually bond with students and make it a priority to have those relationships with them. And it really contributes to the whole of the school because it really is 4 extra adult bodies during the day who are available for supporting students. And so if a student has a need, even a brief need where, like I said, they're having a moment, they're in the hallway crying, and somebody from the building services staff feels comfortable stopping and asking them, are you okay? Can I do anything with you? Do you know where the sensory room is? Can I take you there? It's an extra person in the building who has that compassionate lens and feels like it's a part of their position. And it's something that the principal in that school has supported. And taking that kind of mindset and saying, right, we're all here for kids first, even if our job, it doesn't seem like it's directly kid related. So to me, that's one example. I also have seen similar things with cafeterias a little bit harder because they do tend to be more tucked away, but I know that the help that they've often provided is more around some of that social emotional support for some of our schools. Like, they understand that our students have different needs. And so, there's never a time a kid can't have food. If a kid has had a meltdown during the day and they weren't able to go to lunch, there's never a time that you go to the cafeteria and say, this kid didn't eat lunch today. In some schools I've seen, they're like, well, here's some snacks. This is what we got, but lunch is over. I've seen other teams where there's always something. It might not necessarily always be a hot meal, but there's a meal available that students can have because they recognize that kids have needs and they don't always follow the schedule that we want them to follow. And then also, I think part of it is having these different teams integrated into the building, potentially bringing them in for like a kid talk. Because I have also seen very frequently that kids have relationships in buildings that classroom teachers don't always know about, or case managers always know about, because we can only be so many places in a day. And the number of times where you hear like, oh yeah, this is who I talked to, and you're like, I had no idea you even knew that person. So inviting teams into again, a space that we typically reserve for teachers or paraeducators, inviting other team members into that space to have some of these discussions, to join a kid talk, could be a really good use of your time, not only making other parts of the building feel like they are a part of the school team as a whole, but hearing the perspective that they're bringing to the table, and hearing what it is that they see in other parts of the student's life. The other part for me was the athletic staff. And I think with the athletic teams, thank you for fixing my spelling. I knew there was too many E's in there for some reason. I just couldn't remember which one. I think one of the things that I've seen athletic staff do that is really positive for special education, but also for our twice exceptional students, is sometimes creating that space where they help them with the social skills aspect, where it becomes a place that they can go to outside of the academics. It's a place where they can make connections. I also have found that sometimes having the coaches talk to the students about academic things without coming across as you're not going to get to participate if, but rather, how this supports you as a learner, how it supports you as a team. It's just, again, it's a different perspective to have. And so getting our athletic staff, coaching staff on board with understanding our kids, I have seen generally really positive relationships develop. Because because again, it's a different person coming in, it's a different perspective. It's somebody who has a different type of interest with our students. And I know that the stereotype of our kids is that they're not particularly athletically inclined, but the truth is, just like any other group of students, we have some kids who are some amazing athletes. I've had twice exceptional kids on football scholarships and baseball scholarships and wrestling scholarships. They do have skills. And sometimes we tend to notice the ones who don't have those skills a little more, but that doesn't mean that our kids who do have more athletic focused skills don't also have needs. Did that help a little bit with your question, I hope? So now that we're down to about 5 or 6 minutes, I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is, since I gave you guys a lot of time in that small group, we can go ahead and not go into breakout rooms again. We do have more time next week. We're staying on a similar topic. I believe we're moving into the non-school-based personnel, but we aren't going to lose this Jamboard. So if we want to have, if anything comes up during the week, or if we want to have more more discussion around this, I'm happy to do so. That's essentially all I have for tonight. And I hope you guys are adjusting coming back from spring break. Okay, go ahead.